Hey everyone, here with you on the Off the Mic Sports Network with your Week 4 NFL recap and reaction. Obviously, if you want to go watch my Browns thoughts, I'll probably have a few more here in this video. But go watch that here on the channel. I was very heated. I'm very disappointed. I'm very upset. But let's talk about this very interesting Week 4 in the NFL. Falcons Saints was a very fun game. These games are typically always very fun. It comes down to basically the last play. Younghoe Koo, 4 field goals, 58-yard field goal with 2 seconds left. The Falcons didn't score an offensive touchdown in this game, and I think I said this early in the season. Man, if you lose a game like that, man, Saints, I don't know what happened to them, man. They've stopped scoring. Like, they only had 24 points. It was a 26-24 final. Derek Carr didn't throw a touchdown. Taysom Hill ran for 2 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara had a touchdown. Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave both had 8 catches and 80 yards. But yeah, no offensive touchdowns. Kirk Cousins, 238 yards and an interception. But the Falcons, not an offensive touchdown. They scored the first touchdown of the game. Rashid Shaheed, for whatever reason, is fielding a punt inside the 5. Muffs it, and it gets recovered in the end zone. And then we get a pick 6 from Troy Anderson, who was fantastic on defense. 17 total tackles, 10 solo. And yeah, the Falcons are in this thing, man. I think they get the Bucks this week, and I think that's a Thursday night game. Falcons are an interesting team because they've been in games for most of the. They've been in games. They stole one in Philadelphia. They had a chance to win the game against Pittsburgh. They had a chance to win the game against Kansas City. They've been in every single one of their games. I like this is going to be an interesting race in the South, especially if they can get one because they have this. They have Tampa at home. So that's going to be a very interesting game. But yeah, Falcons, both these teams are now at 2-2. Bears facing the Rams. The Bears get the win here, 24-18. Caleb Williams doesn't have to do a whole hell of a lot, but they did protect him really well. 157 yards passing, 1 touchdown, a really nice ball to DJ Moore. That's their first touchdown as a duo. Yeah, DeAndre Swift ran the ball really well. He was a great dual threat, 93 yards rushing and a touchdown, 72 yards receiving. Kyron Williams, 94 yards rushing and a touchdown. Matthew Stafford wasn't bad, but he wasn't good. 224 and an interception, and the Bears get an interception late in the game. Jaquan Brisker intercepts Stafford late in this game to seal it, and the Bears win by 6. One of the games of the day was Vikings against the Packers. This was one of the early slated games because, Jordan Love was back. Shows up in a Brett Favre jersey. Some people were saying they're paying homage to Brett Favre. If you are anti-Favre, considering what he has done in his past, and his obviously, the situation with his health is unfortunate, but He did do some pretty shady stuff through his career and through his personal life, but wishing Brett Favre, as well. So that was a nice gesture by Jordan Love. But the Vikings just came out and just annihilated the Packers in the earliest going of this game. They were up 28-0. Sam Darnold, I don't know what the hell is going on here, but this guy looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. 20 of 28, 275, 3 touchdowns, interception. He also had a fumble. But the Vikings had a hole on at the end, needed an onside kick to seal it. But like I said, 3 more touchdowns for Sam Darnold. Aaron Jones back at Lambeau, 93 yards rushing. Justin Jefferson looking like the best receiver in the league, 85 yards receiving, 1 TD. Jordan Addison had a rushing and a receiving touchdown. Jordan Love was pretty decent for his first game back, but he had 3 interceptions, 389 yards passing. Dontavian Wicks, 2 touchdowns. Jaden Reed, 139 yards and a touchdown, 7 catches. And the Vikings are 4-0, man. We've talked about it on the Mad Sports Show. Danny's on the bandwagon with this team. Like, you might have to get me all aboard the bandwagon, and you might have to just, give Kevin O'Connell the coach of the year at this point. Like, Sam Darnold's leading the NFL in touchdown passes. Like, this is unbelievable. This guy is unrecognizable to what he was the first 6 years of his career. It's unbelievable what Sam Darnold has been able to do. Step into this offense. Obviously, he was deemed a bridge quarterback, and then all of a sudden he becomes the starter because J.J. McCarthy gets hurt. Now this team's 4-0, man. As of right now, they're one of the best teams in the NFL. Then they played defense too. I mean, yeah, they gave up some stuff at the end and ended up giving up 20. But Green Bay's a good offensive team. But jumping out to that big lead, they'll have to obviously learn from, like, giving up all those points in the back half of the game. But like I said, 3 interceptions of Jordan Love in this game. So, yeah, Vikings, one of the biggest surprises of the season. Speaking of big surprises, Pittsburgh Steelers walked into this week 3-0. And this was an interesting game because I had pegged it as, man, the Steelers could potentially get their path to being undefeated later on in the season, or this game could be the one that trips them up. And I was right on the latter of this because this was a classic Mike Tomlin letdown game. The Colts jumped out to a 14-0 lead in this game. But I give Justin Fields credit that he was able to come back. But that's not really the story of this game because this kind of has a tie to the Cleveland Browns. So the Colts lose Anthony Richardson in the first quarter. Then they bring him back injured, and he gets immediately injured. So Joe Flacco comes in, the same Joe Flacco who led the Browns to the playoffs last year, throws 2 touchdowns. Yeah, he only had 168 yards, but he played mistake-free. 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor was great, 88 yards rushing and a touchdown. Michael Pittman, USC, West Coast, Best Coast, 6 for 113 receiving. And, the Colts hang on to win this 27-24, but this was the best offensive game that I've seen from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it gives me a lot of reason for optimism with this offense with Justin Fields. Because he goes for 312, 1 touchdown. He has 55 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. George Pickens had 113 yards receiving. Like, this was a very, very in a lot of normal circumstances, the Steelers would probably lose this by double digits. But I give them credit for fighting back in this game, and I did not have in week 4 that the Steelers have more certainty at quarterback than the Cleveland Browns. I did not have that on my bingo card, but here we are. So congrats, Danny. You still have a good team. They get the Cowboys next week. And that's going to be a lot of fun for the boys on the Mad Sports Show, Danny and Andrew. But yeah, first loss of the season for the Steelers, so they're knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten. Broncos at the Jets. This was a bizarre game. Bizarre, just strange, all over the place. Rainy. It was nasty out in New Jersey at the Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium. Bo Nix did not look good. I think he had negative yards passing in the first half. He only had 60 yards passing for the game, but he does throw his first touchdown pass in the NFL. Granted, this is week 4. And Broncos only had 186 yards and 12 first downs and won this game 10-9. Aaron Rodgers only had 225 yards passing. He didn't have any touchdowns. The Jets didn't score a touchdown in this game. And Greg Zuerlein, after they got a gift, Will Lutz misses a 50-yard field goal for the Broncos. And Greg Zuerlein gets an opportunity late in this game to kick a 50-yard field goal. Sliced it. If you're a fan of Animal House, just sliced to the right, and the Jets lose 10-9. This was not a pretty game by any stretch of the imagination. The fact that the Broncos won this game with 60 yards passing is just insane, man. Like, and only 186 total yards. But you know what? Hey, early preview of like weather, like fall weather football, and also like winter weather football. So, a game that was not played in bad conditions was played in Tampa Bay. The Bucks clobber the Eagles 33-16. Jalen Hurts only 158 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Saquon Barkley has been really the shining star for the Eagles this season. He had over 100 yards total offense. But really the story of this game and the season for the Bucks is Baker Mayfield. 3 total touchdowns, 2 passing, 1 rushing, 347 through the air. He had Mike Evans 8 times for 94 yards. He had Chris Godwin for a bunch of catches as well. The Bucks are really good. And yes, I am not going to hear anybody in Browns land who's like, oh, revisionist history. If we had Baker, we'd be better off. Listen, I will continue to say this ad nauseum on this channel. The Browns were justified to move off of Baker Mayfield. Period. Point blank. They were justified to move off of Baker Mayfield. But here's the reality of the situation. The Browns just picked the wrong guy. They just picked the wrong guy. It happened And to the degree that they picked it is what's going to be talked about for centuries. Because the fact is they gave a guy who's only got 16 starts, and like you guys heard the rant. Go watch it if you haven't. Like, the Browns are a mess. They're a mess. They're a mess, and the Eagles are a mess too. Browns get them in Week 5. Good luck with that. But yeah, that's just a disappointing loss. The Bengals, tied with the Cleveland Browns, now in the division. They moved to 1-3. They were 0-3. They needed to win this game against the Carolina Panthers. It got interesting for a while. The Bengals' talent just showed off in this game. Burrow was great, 232, 2 touchdowns. He had an interception. Chase Brown, nice game, 80 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase had a crazy 60-plus yard touchdown, 85 total yards receiving and a touchdown. Andy Dalton was fine, 220 through the air, 2 touchdowns, and a bad interception. Chuba Hubbard was really good in this game, 18 for 104 and 1 TD. Deontay Johnson, they dusted him off after looking terrible in the first 2 weeks. 7 for 83 and a touchdown receiving. Really what this came down to, like really what this boils down to, if you guys have seen it clear as day through 2 weeks. I'm not saying that Bryce Young was the problem, but clearly he is not ready or built to win with the Carolina Panthers as they're currently constructed. So on some level, I can kind of justify what Dave Canales was doing in benching Bryce Young, but it's also just a microcosm of just how messed up this organization is. But they did get the win at the Raiders, so they actually had the same record as the Browns. So, like I said, this just shows you how bad the Cleveland Browns are. But the Bengals are also 1-3 as well. They get their first win of the season. Texans-Jags was a great game. And the Jags are 0-4. I did not expect them to just, blow this game in the manner that they did, because they were leading it 20-17. They got 4th and 1 on the 1-yard line. Start of the fourth quarter, they run a QB draw from the shotgun. One thing I hate, and I've not said it this much on the channel, but I tell all my friends this when I watch football. They do this all the time in college. When you have a 4th and short and you're lining up in the shotgun, why are you lining up 2 more yards behind the line of scrimmage so you can get a running head start? Like, that didn't make any sense, and it effectively cost them the game. Trevor Lawrence was fine in this game. He only had 169 yards passing, but he had 2 touchdowns. Brian Thomas and Christian Kirk caught it, but it was the CJ Stroud and Nico Collins show in this game. 345, 2 touchdowns passing for CJ Stroud. Game-winning touchdown to former Jag, Dare Agumbawale. And Nico Collins, 12 for 151, 1 touchdown. Don't look now, Nico Collins is leading the NFL in receiving. The Texans are good people, but they play a lot of nail-biters. So this shouldn't have been this close, but the Jags are 0-4. If this would have been a blowout, I would have probably been on the fire Doug Peterson train. I think he's going to probably be able to get through the season. I think he's earned that, but at the same time, they got clobbered by Buffalo on Monday night. Speaking of getting clobbered, the Arizona I thought this game would actually be interesting. Commanders and Cardinals in Arizona. Jaden Daniels back in the state of Arizona where he played the first part of his college career. Jaden Daniels, again, only 4 incompletions. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 233 total yards passing. He then had another 47 rushing and a touchdown. Brian Robinson, 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. Jeremy McNichols had 2 touchdowns rushing. Commanders win 42-14. This is a good team, everybody. They lost their first game of the season. They won 3 in a row. And you would not know that this offense only got 7 field goals 2 weeks ago against the Giants. What in the hell is going on? Cliff Kingsbury is doing work, man, and Dan Quinn's doing a great job there at the Commanders. If I'm the Browns, I'm scared to death to face Jaden Daniels next week because hardly anybody has been able to stop him this year. It's just, man, I mean, Kyler Murray only 142 yards passing. James Conner had 100 yards rushing. Marvin Harrison caught a touchdown. So, fine performance from the Cardinals just got destroyed in this game, but it was just an unbelievable performance from the Commanders. And some of these stats might be kind of padded for just being in garbage time, really, because this game was not close for a large chunk of it. Jaden Daniels is just already on the inside track to winning Offensive Rookie of the Year 4 weeks into the season. The 49ers get a lot of their core pieces back. George Kittle came back. He had a touchdown in this game. They clobbered the Patriots 30-13. Brock Purdy 288, touchdown and interception. Jordan Mason's been really good in place of Christian McCaffrey, 123 yards rushing and a touchdown. Jacoby Brissett's been fine, but the Patriots are just not going to win a lot of games this year. They're just not. And you have to wonder at a certain point how much longer do we have to wait until we get Drake May for the Patriots. But the 49ers get back to 2-2. They had a demoralizing loss against the Rams last week on the road. Okay. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a sampler of what was said. Go watch the whole video on the channel. But Browns lose 20-16 to the Raiders. The Raiders get 152 yards rushing. One of the worst rushing teams in the league. So the defense was a problem. Okay? Gardner Minshew only had 130 yards passing. Okay. Amari Cooper drops a pass that turns into an interception. The Browns give up a touchdown. Dustin Hopkins, they opt not to kick a 58-yard field goal after he kicked a 56-yard field goal. Fine, whatever. There was a bullshit holding call at the end of a crucial spot in this game that negated an 82-yard Amari Cooper touchdown. There was a lot of things that did not go the Browns' way in Las Vegas. But this is what I continue to trumpet and go back to, is that the Cleveland Browns, in spite of all of those mistakes that happened in this game, were in position in the red zone on 4th down and 3 after a fumbled snap to start right after the 2-minute warning when they were in scoring range. They were able to get it to 4th and 3, 40 seconds to go in this game, and you have your $230 million quarterback with a chance to win the football game. And Deshaun Watson and his right arm did not let go of a pass. That is a failure. You have to at least give somebody a chance. And if you look at the video, he had at least one route right out of the gate, and I think it was Jordan Akins. It might have been Jerry Jeudy. He had at least one, maybe two options if he would have just anticipated it and just gone with his gut and just let it rip. I'm not the offensive line's been bad, but he only got sacked 3 times in this game, and one of them, one hit really screwed up a potential Amari Cooper touchdown. But I'm not having it with these Browns fans saying Deshaun Watson played incredible. Oh, it was the best game he's played as a Brown. I'm sorry. Did the Baltimore game not happen last year? They haven't scored 20 points in a game this season. He has not gotten over 200 yards this season. They scored 3 points after the opening drive on offense. The only other 6 that they got in this game was on a fumble return for a touchdown by Rodney McLeod. That probably made this game semi-interesting. And yes, Dustin Hopkins missed the extra point right after it. So what? You adapt and you overcome. And the fact is, this guy did not have a good game. I don't care about that completion percentage. 4 straight games, under 200 yards. You have 3 points after the on-script first drive, which the Browns are statistically one of the best first drive teams in the league because Kevin Stefanski is as good of a play caller as there is in the NFL. But Kevin Stefanski does need to wear some of this as well because that's inexcusable that you walk in there and face a team without Max Crosby and Devontae Adams and lose that game to a team that was in turmoil as well in the Raiders. It's not a passable. But listen, if I'm judging anybody more than and blaming people, like Deshaun Watson, whether you like it or not, is at the top of the list because everything has been catered to this guy, and it has been displayed virtually almost every single one of the 16 games that he has played for this team that he is not good anymore. It was a bad trade. It was a bad investment. And what I judged this off of, and I said this when I moved off of Baker Mayfield, I judge quarterbacks how they're able to come up through in the clutch. Baker Mayfield was not able to do that on a consistent basis for the Cleveland Browns, and that's why one of the main reasons why I think they moved off of him. Deshaun Watson's done none of that either. Like, how do you not get a pass off in that situation? How do you not let go of the ball? Just wait for him to blame and say both those reads were a decoy. There's no excuse to just take a sack in that situation. None whatsoever. Again, after a first drive touchdown, only 9 points. They had 8 the week before. They had 7. They had 12. I think they had 12 after. And a lot of that was just special teams and defense that really helped them out. So it's not good enough, man. It's not good enough. They go to Washington next week. Good luck with that. They're probably going to get destroyed. This team might be 1-5. They might be 1-5 because they've got 2 road games on the 2 road games. One at Washington, one at Philadelphia. Philadelphia will be off a bye. They'll probably have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith back for that game. That's one of the reasons why their offense hasn't been particularly productive. Although that being said, Jalen Hurts has kind of regressed. But fuck, I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of this fan base just trying to justify that this is okay. This is not okay, and I feel more miserable watching this team than I did watching this team go 1-31. Like, that's how miserable this is, because this guy has been a nightmare to try and support. This guy has not delivered on the investment that we were trying to justify that he was worth. And at some point, we've got to stop defending this guy. And I get it. He completed a decent number of passes. The interception wasn't his fault. But you are the $230 million man. You should be able to throw for more than 200 yards in one of the 4 games you've played this year. You should be able to score more than 20 points. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about the other stuff. Quarterbacks getting paid that amount of money are counted on to make plays and decide games. And Deshaun Watson has not done any of that in 16 games. So that's it. Your sample of Brown's thoughts. Go watch the rest of the video. Chiefs beat the Chargers 17-10. Patrick Mahomes, more like his usual self, 245, a touchdown and an interception. But a big injury here, Rashee Rice. Patrick Mahomes throws an interception, and Mahomes as Rashee Rice and him are trying to make a tackle, Mahomes rolls into Rashee Rice's knee. He's out for the year. It looks like an ACL tear. That sucks. He's one of their better receiving threats. But Xavier Worthy, man, like, I don't know how the NFL allowed Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to get the fastest player in the draft. But he had another big touchdown, 73 yards receiving to go with that touchdown. Travis Kelce finally showed up, 7 catches, 89 yards. Kareem Hunt, former Brown, 14 for 69 rushing. They dusted him off. That was great. Justin Herbert, he really hasn't, wowed anybody so far this year. I don't know if this is just, they're still trying to figure out, the identity, really, of the offense under Jim Harbaugh. And, Vlad McConkey's been really good receiving, but Justin Herbert only has 179 yards passing. And ultimately, the Chargers only get 10 points in this game, and they lose. And the Chiefs are 4-0 too, very quietly. They've kind of gotten away with a bunch of these games, and they've gotten away by the skin of their teeth. But that's what championship teams do. They find ways to win these ugly games, even through injuries. And like I said, bringing Kareem Hunt off the practice squad, off the couch, to rush for almost 70 yards in this game. They just find ways to win. That's why they're the defending champions, man. The 2-time defending champions. The Ravens, I should have seen this coming after they started 0-2, that they were going to roll through these 2 games against Buffalo and the Cowboys and go to 2-2, and they did. They just destroyed the Bills 35-10. This wasn't competitive. Derrick Henry has a big 87 yard run right off the bat in this game. He goes for almost 200 and a touchdown, 199 and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson, 3 total touchdowns, 156 passing, 54 rushing. Josh Allen only gets 180, no touchdown, so that didn't help my fantasy team. My fantasy team's terrible, in case you guys were wondering. But yeah, this was what this came down to. Really, is just the Ravens are really good, and they figured out some of their flaws in the first 2 weeks. This game between Cincinnati and Baltimore is really interesting next week, because if Cincinnati wins, they're 2-3, and so are the Ravens, and that really just affects a lot of this division. The Browns, they could go shock me and go to Washington and win, but I have no reason to believe that this team is going to win next week in Washington the way that the Commanders are playing. But if you're a Browns fan, you're probably rooting for Cincinnati to win that game in that scenario, if you're a Browns fan, to just see these teams just throw up all over each other and just beat each other up, so that way you can, addition by subtraction, and then, and then bring everybody down to the pack. And then, hey, hopefully you steal one of these 2 games. Maybe, I mean, it's wishful thinking. They think you're going to take both. But, yeah, it's going to be tough sledding for the Browns. But the Ravens, man, and Derrick Henry has looked like an amazing acquisition for this team. The Ravens are a scary team, man. I don't like them, but they're a well-run organization. They've got a great quarterback who's a phenomenal competitor and athlete. He's not my personal cup of tea, but I respect the hell out of him for what he does and the kind of leader that he is for the Baltimore Ravens. And then the Cowboys, they end their 2-game losing streak. They beat the Giants 20-15 on Thursday Night Football. Daniel Jones doesn't throw a touchdown. He didn't look good. I was like, how did the Browns make this guy look like the second coming of Phil Simms? Like, what happened? Or Eli Manning? What happened? What happened? And the Cowboys, I mean, hey, Dak has a pretty solid game. Only 5 incompletions, 221 through the air, 2 touchdowns. And CeeDee Lamb has almost 100 yards receiving, 98 on 7 catches and a touchdown. And the Cowboys win. And hey, don't look now. Cowboys-Steelers on Sunday Night Football next week. We might be trying to workshop something potentially to have some sort of viewing party on the channel. It may not include me, but we are efforting potentially doing something like that. I don't know if it's going to happen, but stay tuned. Yeah, that's NFL Week 4. Stay tuned this week for some Browns thoughts. I feel like there's going to be some potential news because there's been hinting at depositions potentially being done and interviews with the NFL with this latest Jane Doe in the latest Deshaun Watson. It's effectively a rape case if you read it. So that's going to be something interesting to monitor to see if the NFL actually suspends him. Secretly, I think the Browns are hoping they do. But at this point, I really just don't care. I just don't care. Because the fact that this team invested in this guy is just a microcosm of just how bad this team has been at picking quarterbacks. And I just cannot stand the ownership. And my biggest fear, and I'll leave you guys with this when it comes to the Browns, is that they may have to part ways with the best coach that they've had since 1999 in Kevin Stefanski. Because normally in these situations, especially when you have a high-priced quarterback, the coach takes the fall. I really hope, that does not happen. Because Kevin Stefanski has proven in 2 separate years taking this team to the playoffs where they had not been in 20 years prior to that. And he won Coach of the Year in both those seasons. And he took Joe Flacco to the playoffs. This is clear as day that this is a Deshaun Watson issue. And anybody who's trying to say that he played great today or yesterday, whenever you're watching this, it's a bunch of bullshit. I don't care if all the other shit happens in the game. It's like I said with the Giants game last week. Mistakes happen. Stuff happens throughout the game. You got to adapt and overcome. And the reality is the Browns were driving with a chance to win that game. And Deshaun Watson did not get off a pass on the last play of that game. That's why they lost. This league's judged on quarterbacks. Whether you guys like it or not, stop defending him. He's a moron. He's an asshole. He sucks. All right, hit the subscribe button below here. Like, share, and subscribe here on the channel for more NFL, Browns content, wrestling content, perfect blend, sports and sports entertainment here on the Off the Mic Sports Network. Follow the show at OT Mike Sports. Also, that's where you can actually link up here on YouTube, also on Twitter or X. I refuse to call it that. And Off the Mic 28. If you want to just follow me and my individual tweets and see me ranting and raving about the Browns or, wrestling or whatever. We'd love to interact with y'all. Get in the comments as well. If you have any other, questions, comments, concerns, or topics that we can, potentially do some videos here. We're looking at doing any interesting content. So thanks for all the love and support. Love you guys. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.